What if your accountant was also a visionary? Today's guest, Chris Arndt, is exactly that. Chris is the founder and CEO of Expand CFO, and someone I've known for over a decade. He's been at the forefront of the outsourced accounting movement since before we even had a name for it. We'll talk about what it means to truly partner with entrepreneurs and how to bridge that gap between the founder's big vision and the grounded clarity of numbers. From building and selling his first firm to launching his next, Chris shares how he's moved with industry trends, stayed aligned to purpose, and led with empathy and precision. This is a conversation about accounting, yes, but it's really about vision, partnership, and evolution. I'm your host, Katherine Jelinek, and this is the Expanders Podcast, presented by The Skinny Platform, the place for entrepreneurs with something to share and who want to be heard. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to get to be here today with Chris Arndt, founder and CEO of Expand CFO, and a friend of mine for over a decade now, if not more. And today we have a lot of different things we're going to talk about, mostly in the realm of business accounting and outsourced accounting. And I know that might sound a little dry right off the cuff, but just you wait to hear Chris talk about it. You might find that it sounds a little different coming from him. Thanks for being here, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Katherine.
Yeah. So that first topic I want to talk about is back when we met, which could have been like 2012, 2013. No. That is a while ago. Chris, you were first to the space of fractional accounting and being a fractional CFO. And at the time, you may have not even known that that's what you were doing, like getting right in front of a trend that was coming. But I find that to be one of the things about you. You can continue to be in front of major trends, whether or not you intend to do so. And now I know you're being more intentional about that in your current chapter. But I'd love to talk about a few of these that you've been a part of. And that starts with, what you were doing back in 2012 and 2013.
Yeah. I can't believe it's been over a decade. You're making me feel very old right now.
Well, I'm old too then.
So, yeah, I mean, being on the edge of something new, I'd love to say it was a methodical decision and that I had some strategic thesis that there was a new industry forming. The reality is I'd started a business and I just wanted to help people. So I actually started a business before really knowing what the business was going to do. But a friend and a coach of mine at the time, she gave me some assessments, and she's like, "You just want to help people." She's like, "It doesn't matter what industry, doesn't matter what's being built. You just want to help people," and that stuck with me. And I kind of started out doing some consulting, but then sort of fell into this new space that I didn't even really know was a space at the time, which now you hear the term fractional CFO or outsourced accounting team, and it's fairly commonplace. At the time, I just wanted to help entrepreneurs, and I saw this sort of need where these startup companies were forming. They had their vision. They were trying to change the world, but cash flow planning, accounting, bookkeeping, all the things that you warned the viewers and listeners about up front, that this may not be that exciting. Those are the things that these entrepreneurs, didn't like doing or honestly couldn't do. And so I just started doing it for them to help them. That's really where it came from. And we just started growing really quickly. And again, I didn't know it was a space. This was back when Zoom was like a startup company its own. So we started using Zoom to do calls and meetings over video, which was not commonplace at the time. And the accounting software started being more and more in the cloud. And so at the time, QuickBooks Online was a lot of our clients. We were starting there. I can talk more about our new focus later on different systems, but it became in the cloud, and you could serve and do the work without having all this paper flying around or being next to your clients, being in the same space. You could do it virtually. I was just lucky to be in the right place and use the tools that were there. And it was, now there's an industry behind it. And the CPA firms, they give it the boring term of client accounting services or
That is
CAS
boring.
because
Hmm.
yeah, it's boring. The acronym of CAS because they give acronyms to everything. And um, we had the tagline the entrepreneur CFO. I felt like that spoke more to who we were trying to help. And yeah, just fortunate to be at the start of a space when it started taking off, and it was a fun time.
It's yeah, and it's so cool to kind of hear you were well positioned with everything beginning to become more virtual in the cloud, easy to do, kind of in transition, not right next to each other. But your style was still very like shoulder to shoulder with the company and the CEOs or the startup founders and or screen to screen, very relatable. Like part of what I loved when I got to meet you is the visionary, CEOs that you were with when I met you. They have that big visions, and then you were able to step in and explain the slides and talk about how that translated financially, either if they were raising or if you were projecting and budgeting and cash flows for next year. The way that you were able to help them take that visionary element. One of the ways that we described it when we were chatting earlier is that your firm and what you were offering is being that integrator to the visionaries, for those who use the entrepreneur operating system, EOS.
Yeah, yeah. It was, these are all terms that when we talk about them now, it makes sense to me. At the time, over a decade ago, I was starting my first business. I didn't know what EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, was. I didn't know
Hmm.
what a visionary was or an integrator. I didn't know that I really am, three parts visionary and one part integrator. I've done the assessment through EOS.
Mm.
Um, but I've learned that now, and as I grew my first business, which I sold to a CPA firm in Chicago, I grew it to about 40 employees total.
You
For
grew Red Granite to about 40 employees and then sold it.
Yeah, so Red Granite, that was the company,
Hmm.
and uh, when I officially sold it to the CPA firm, we only had about a dozen employees, and
Oh,
then
okay.
yeah, and then I stayed on with that CPA firm for 8 years post sale, which a lot of people wouldn't believe. I wouldn't have believed going into it, but it was a good it was a good setup and a good structure in that ended up being part of a larger firm, but still got to have like my group that we ran. And so this group, we grew it from 12 to about almost 40 employees over those 8 years that I stayed on after the sale. So learned, kind of going back to your point, I learned through that journey as I was growing, I had to be less of the technician,
Hmm.
less of the. I guess I always joke that I'm sort of like a double nerd. I'm a CPA accountant. I also had a minor in computer science, and so I think that intersection helped me sort of also fall in to this space of providing accounting, but a big piece of doing this these client accounting is understanding the technology and providing the best tech stack for clients, and that's changed a lot over the last 10 years. But that helped me kind of fall in and be lucky, I guess, to be ready to work in this space
Mm.
when it happened. So yeah, so I kind of learned as I grew more as a leader. I guess I am a visionary and kind of learned what that meant. I think that in the early days helped me sort of be this like partner to our clients
Yeah.
because I was an entrepreneur even if I didn't think I was. Like I truly was an entrepreneur and I loved like the strategy and looking forward and building a plan.
Hmm.
Honestly, I hated doing the accounting. I'm not going to lie. The actual accounting for our for Red Granite, the first
Hmm.
company, was like the last thing I would do. And we were
Hmm.
always behind. So it was a little ironic that
As though the cobbler shoes is real. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, but I think knowing now that I am like this visionary coupled with this technical background of being a nerdy accountant, I think that helped me speak and partner with our clients early on, and was fortunate, and it was just a lot of fun being able to sit there and help and work side by side with them.
That's so great. There's an engineering company that I speak to frequently through the work I'm doing now, and you remind me of a conversation we recently had where some of the top leaders in the company are actually they confess that they are mediocre engineers and actually don't really like engineering, but it's key that they can speak that language and obviously understand that. And but what they love is building the business and taking the new opportunities and the trends within the engineering boutique engineering space, and also leading people and leading specifically engineers, unlocking that energy potential and being able to speak. So anyways, it's about, sometimes I find what you've just described of like, I actually don't like the accounting part, is often an indicator of somebody who can lead in that space well, because you can speak that language and you understand the pain points and you can create something that's a solution, to all of that. So yeah, and we're gonna just weave back and forth. I think one of the things that you're an expander for is like how much of a real partner you are to entrepreneurs. I know that's kind of hard to say, and demonstrate to everyone what that really means. But I think the fact that you could speak to the visionaries in that visionary language with that energy was one of the things they felt genuinely like understood, and then you're able to communicate to your team and understand and speak to how you're going to help them capture that vision in numbers and in a plan and a concrete system of numbers. So that's but I think it's first that natural empathy that you have and excitement for the vision and building businesses, and of course that natural inclination to help. But I don't think you can help yourself in a good way with entrepreneurs, and you kind of get caught up in their in the excitement of how are they going to build this and what can be done.
Yeah, I think. I think the ability, the technical background. In fact, I just had a client meeting yesterday. It was we were going over it's kind of it's a client I've been working with for some time, but we're still. I know I've known them a long time, but we're still in the early stages of kind of really digging in and making a lot of changes. And the CEO, visionary of visionaries, like, 110 on a scale of 1 to 100, visionary type thing, and always throwing out ideas and like, what are we doing here? And I just like love the conversation, hearing what they want to be doing. Um, but then that part of integrator in me, that 25% or something, you gotta tie the meeting back and actually be foundational and say, like, I hear you, I see what you want to do, but like, here's the three things we can actually accomplish in the next month, and take that super high level 30,000 foot view and translate it down to where the rubber hits the road on,
Hmm.
and then working with my team to say, all right, over the next month, here's how we have to change the accounting for the freight bills so that we can get a better idea of your Shopify sales versus your offline sales, and see what's more profitable. Because right now we're not allocating freight to those different channels. Like, it's just a simple example there, but like, super high level, the CEO didn't know how to say that. He just said, like, I wonder, is Shopify our best channel? Like, that, it's a wonderment. And then, I take it down specifically, walk it down all the way down to, like, yeah, your UPS bills, we need a better way to code them more. So that's just like a silly example of like the high
Hmm.
level to the low level,
Right.
and being able to speak both languages. Working with my team on the action items, and the CEOs on the strategy. I love doing that. I love distilling that, and kind of bridging that gap. It's a lot of fun. I don't want to go
Mm.
code the bills then. Don't get me wrong. I
Right.
don't want to do that, but
No, that's not
I
what
love
you're meant
having
to
the
do, but
conversation.
yeah, but you connect the two pieces, the vision to the what needs to be done for the company, which is a huge piece, I think. All the ways that entrepreneurs need partnership, from those in the team to those that they're like bringing in as partners, vendor partners, service providers, that kind of thing. But this is what it is. It's that translation. It's being able to tie to the vision and translate it into something more detailed to actualize the company's, you know, comings and goings. And, I want to bounce back to how you're the pioneer, though, because I think you were able to respond to what was occurring in real time in the market, right? Back in those like 2012, 2013, and you didn't even know it, and you started building a business around those needs of the entrepreneurs. You were naturally, adapting to the needs of your customers, which was really cool. And then you were right there in that trend that was really getting firmly established in bigger companies noticing that and wanting a piece of it. And so you got acquired, which was, really awesome that got to happen for you. And was that happening? That was happening a lot then, or was that kind of a newer, when you got acquired, was that still kind of new, or was that beginning companies like you were getting scooped up?
Yeah, good question. So at the time, so I sold the business in the middle of 2016,
Hmm.
which also just crazy long time ago now.
Yeah, 9 years.
I love the walk back on memory lane here.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so at the time, around 2015, 2016, all of a sudden the CPA world, everything they were talking about was CAS meaning Client Accounting Services. That's that boring acronym they gave to the space. And um, a lot of CPA firms, they follow each other, and a lot of them do a lot of the same things. And so, a couple of them start talking about a service, and then they all start talking about it. And the appeal, there's very good, like, I hate the word synergy, so I'm not going to say that, complementary, like, services. So our work on the client accounting side, we don't really want to touch doing the taxes for the business or for the owner. So we're always referring work to CPA firms. They do the taxes, and so there's a natural kind of complement there. And our work is very sticky. It is month to month. I mean, week to week, day to day. I mean, with the clients, we're very hands on. Our clients hire us instead of hiring in-house employees to do their accounting or CFO's function. And so it's super sticky. We're like part of the team. you
Hmm.
know Clients in the past have always said, like, there's a very thin line between you all and our employees. Like, we just see you as part of the team, which is cool. I love that. That's kind of that partnership thing. But anyway, so the service is super sticky, super high touch. From a revenue perspective, much, much, much higher than just doing a tax return once a year for a business. So maybe,
Hmm.
a business tax returns 5 grand a month. um, our services would, start at like 5 grand. I'm sorry, taxes of 5 grand a year, once a year for
Mm.
the tax return. Ours are like 5 grand a month.
Hmm.
So you take this client that's just do 5 grand of revenue a year as a tax. If you can upsell them on client accounting services, you've just 10xed your revenue, and have become deeper and now stickier too with that client. So all the CPA firms love that idea. This is about 2015, 2016.
Yeah, I see why. Why not
Yeah,
10x it if we can? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. At the time, I had been doing this for about 5 years at that point, and I loved what I was doing. We were growing fast. We were growing because we just would make every mistake possible. There was no like playbook for this industry, how to run the firm I was running.
Yeah, it's still new and emerging. It was still like, what are we calling this? Is this what we're doing? All right, this is what we're doing.
Right. Now there's like accounting influencers and people you can follow and talk
All right.
about, and there's like groups, that communities that are formed where you can like learn with other firm owners how to run things. But back then,
Sure.
No, I mean, there's a couple firms doing this. I was not the pioneer. I was a pioneer. There was a few, a few others doing it at the time,
Hmm.
but no
Real
playbook.
quick on that is
Yeah.
like you're the kind who's doing it and you're not sitting there ringing your bell about it, and like making a big old persona and saying you were, but you were doing it, you know? I've I watched enough of your sessions with you and like the people we commonly knew. It, you grew that business. That word of mouth was like wildfire, you know? The
The word of
companies
mouth.
that I knew that liked working with you, it just went around and all of a sudden one year everybody was doing it.
Yeah, yeah, it
That
was
speaks
that was fun.
volumes. So what if you're not the influencer, you're the guy getting it done.
I think that's yeah. I'm from Wisconsin originally. I'm in Southern Cal now, but I have my
Yeah.
Midwestern roots. I
Yeah.
get things done. I think
That's right.
we had a core value at my prior firm, and it was get shit done. That was the core value,
I like it.
and I believe in that. And again, just helping people. Um,
But I
so
think I
yeah,
cut you
so
off when you were talking about, yeah, the acquisition timing. Yeah.
right, yeah. So I was 5 years in. I knew CPA firms were opening up to the idea. I was talking to some people in my network, and I wasn't like trying to get out of the business by any means, but everyone was saying, if you sell, they're going to want to lock you up for 4 years, and they want to make sure that you stay on, you help transition the clients, and there's not, So at that point, I'm like, I'm in for 5 years. If I got to stay another 4 years, maybe I'll be ready for my next thing. So why don't I pursue this? And so started kind of just putting the word out with a network. I did not hire like a banker or broker or anything to like help me with the sale. I just went out to my network, and there were two firms that were interested. And then at the time, Orba, which is the firm I ultimately sold to, they were my business tax accountant already.
Oh,
So they,
wow.
they were
Cool.
doing my taxes for business and personal. And so I went to the partner there, and I was like, I'm talking to a couple other firms. I already know you all at Orba. I like you as a firm. Do you have any interest in this? And they're like, yeah, actually we do. And so walked through the stage with three potential buyers, got to the end with two of them, and then I picked the deal with Orba. I liked it the best. I just thought it was the best fit for me at the time, and the best structure. Not gonna lie, the first year was tough, getting used
Hmm.
to having like reporting into a boss and a CPA firm
Hmm.
of things, which culturally and everything is very different from a CPA versus our like scrappy a dozen people more focused on efficiency, process, and making clients happy, less with like CPA regulations and things like that. Two different worlds.
Hmm.
So it was it was tough marrying that, but at the end of the day, kudos to the management at Orba. Like we ended up putting a good structure in place, and I still got to be the entrepreneur running our group, which was a subsidiary of the CPA firm, and I was incentivized to grow it and to grow it profitably, and Orba benefited and I benefited, and I still got to be that entrepreneur, or I guess intrapreneur, if you want to call it
Hmm.
that. And we grew from 12 to 40 over the next 8 years, and it was a lot of fun. So
Hmm. Well, then fast forward to now. So it was 8 years there, not just four, and now you're here and starting new again. And when we talked prior to this, you were sharing about like the trend you're now seeing in the business accounting and outsourced business accounting space and what you're intentionally building. So rather than last time you followed the trend and maybe didn't see it as clearly, and now you're really seeing things clearly and intentionally orienting. I'd like to share about that because I found that fascinating and how things have evolved.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I mean, the first business just fell into it, and
Hmm.
I was, you know, had no idea what it took to start a company, or much less have a strategy. This time around, I mean, the last year or so that I was with Orba, I was starting to kind of get the itch, and I was like, maybe I'm ready for the next step. Like I've grown that helped grown this business for somebody else for so many years. Like it's time to grow something for myself again. And again, like looking back, it was the right decision for me and the family at the time to sell the first business. It was good. Everything was great. Learned a ton. Orba, was very helpful in helping us like grow the business. But I just got to the point where it's kind of ready to jump off. And the thing about this space now is the accounting world in general, not just like client accounting services or fractional CFO. It's CPAs, the accounting world. There's a ton of private equity money in this space now. And it's been, for a couple of years, there's been some very big deals that have been announced for some large CPA firms in the U.S. There's been some like other like alternative structures, like changing from the old partnership model of CPA firms.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been kind of interesting to see. And one of the hottest areas that this investment is going into, this private equity investment is going into, is the space that I fell into over a decade ago.
Oops.
Yeah. So there, tons of firms, bigger CPA firms, they all have huge plans to grow their client accounting groups.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of independent firms like myself that have there's a ton with just like one and two people, but like the real firms that kind of start forming after maybe a couple dozen employees. There's some in the couple hundreds as well, but those type of firms are either merging together and looking for a potential exit to sell.
Mm-hmm.
That's one option. Or the larger ones are just getting picked off directly from CPA firms and bought out directly by using the private equity money that's coming into the space. So there's a ton of investment in the space. I guess that's my point right now. And the valuations are pretty crazy.
Mm.
And I've got this like playbook that I half wrote on myself, and now half, kind of I am listening to those influencers communities in the space, communities that are in the space, and trying to learn best practices. But been through the struggles. And there's a lot of new. There's actually this industry called ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition, and it's a lot of MBA students are coming out fresh off their MBA and getting investor money backing them to help them buy businesses as well. And accounting firms are like hot on that list as well. So there's a lot of people entering the space, but it's like they haven't done it for a decade. They don't know the struggles. There's
They're
like,
gonna get hit by a few, yeah, like the things
yeah,
that come along.
yeah, exactly. So it's a tough area to scale and grow.
Mm.
It does take a lot of leadership, and uh, I do love that, and I found out that I love that over the last decade. So with everyone kind of going in, but all this money there, you kind of go back. I'm being a little more intentional this time around, and whereas 10 years ago, if you were like a virtual accounting firm, like we were, you could serve anybody because it was just novel that you did things in the cloud and virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter what the business did, didn't matter the industry. Now there's so many different firms out there that do this. You really need to specialize and set yourself apart. Yeah. So, which is natural for any type of business, right? You niche down and kind of helps you grow quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So we are targeting businesses that are 5 to 100 million in revenue, and they're on NetSuite. NetSuite's the ERP, the accounting system. So I mentioned 10 years ago, everyone was on QuickBooks Online. Still tons of businesses. I mean, hundreds of thousands of them on QuickBooks Online. But almost every business, every firm in my space serves clients on QuickBooks Online because it's the easy one to go after. NetSuite, there's still a lot of businesses on it. About 40,000 businesses are on NetSuite, but they're bigger businesses. NetSuite is not user friendly to use.
Mm.
It can be a pain in the butt, and but that's what's keeping a lot of people out from using it, and a lot of
Look
firms.
at you going in for the tangled mess. Like,
Yeah,
why not?
hot mess. Okay, we'll come help you.
Yeah, I know how to deal with this.
Yeah. So, but there's big pain points, and the employees who companies can hire to work on NetSuite, there's just way fewer employees available. So, I think it lends itself to be a great focus and niche for us. And so, we're going all in on working with clients on NetSuite for that focus. So, that's
Mhm.
one thing I'm being more intentional about. And then the other thing is I have an eye on, someday I do want to exit as well. But again, in the meantime, I want to grow and help as many clients as we can. But that exit out there, like I'm an entrepreneur, I got to look to that.
Yeah.
And this time around, I want to use M&A to grow through acquisition, along with growing organically as well. But kind of combining those two together to build a bigger firm that's all in on NetSuite, and then that pure focus on NetSuite, I think will be very appealing. If and when we do want to exit at some point down the line.
It's kind of fun to get to see you here now, and having gotten to know you in the earlier days where it was accidental, almost intuition, even though you may not call it that yourself, but kind of moving with what was occurring. Now you're really seeing it eyes wide open and orienting yourself for that, and seeing the different just forces at play and the trends, and creating something that's going to hopefully capture the different opportunities that the newest evolution of this space is creating. I think that your story is just a really great example to me. I mean, a lot of different service providers could see shared experiences in this story of aligning yourself to kind of capture on the momentum of a space, and knowing how to do so, and just even your timing has been impeccable with each of these major moves. I know that you probably aren't going to say you take any credit for that, but it's just a good story to hear that translates, I think, to a lot of different spaces about how to shift with the winds a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather be lucky than good. So, I'll take that. There's that. I, but obviously, as everyone says, right? Luck is when chance meets opportunity or
And
preparation.
preparedness, or
Thank you.
yeah,
Just botched that completely. Great.
that
So,
is great.
I can't give quotes or anything. So it's just, I got to be lucky to be in the right place at the right time.
I
Um,
don't think so.
yeah.
So, what about the people you're looking to partner with going forward? Like, what's the kind of the larger firm that you're looking to create as you invite those who are aligned to merge? Like, what is alignment look
Yeah.
like?
What's alignment look like? Um, well, at the end of the day, there's lots of firms out there. I'm only going to do, a merge or acquisition. I don't have to. Like, I know how to grow the business organically. The M&A comes in only if like the perfect situation happens. And, firms that have, I would say, between a dozen to a few dozen employees, maybe let's say 10 to 50 employees or so. I think that's like the size. They have a heavy focus on serving clients on NetSuite. Those are like, the technical
Hmm.
requirements. But the most important thing is like, there's got to be the cultural alignment, because otherwise, like, it just doesn't make sense. I'm not looking to just do this pure arbitrage play of like gobbling up lots of firms, and instead of selling for 1x revenue to a buyer, selling for 2x or more later on. I want to build a combined firm that people want to be a part of and enjoy, and um, and so that culture is the most important thing. And I think it comes down to like, you have to um, want to help people, and that caring for the client, that has to, that comes second. First is caring for our team, and
Mm,
making sure they have a, good place to work and path to grow.
mm,
And so any firm that, you have to, I think you have to focus on those two areas, and you have to truly love that, and
mm.
love working with the people and helping. Otherwise that doesn't work. So it's going to be, a process. It'll be very selective when it happens. I've been talking to some firms already, and some good initial conversations, but definitely don't plan to rush into anything there.
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's such a cool opportunity to create an ecosystem with mergers and being intentional about culture. And when it succeeds, it becomes this network of support and obviously being more together exponentially, more than 1 + 1 = 2, more like 1 + 1 = 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you've got, yeah, that intentional culture piece is that core piece to lead with, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So, what wisdom might you impart to other entrepreneurs who are like you, who are in a service or a partnership with entrepreneurs related realm of any sort? Like two questions, I guess, specifically to impart wisdom on. How do you show up? Like, what do you recommend? How do you really show up as that true partner to other entrepreneurs? And then, how can you be intentional about moving with those trends? Like, what do you do, or what would you impart about really being able to sense and adapt based on what's occurring?
Yeah. Okay. So first question was, how do you kind of focus on being that partner?
Hmm. True
I,
partner.
I mean, I think, focusing, I mean, we're all humans, right? And so, um, do spend as much time as you can getting in the head of who you're trying to help, and, um, what, what keeps them up at night, what makes them tick. Like, those are the things that you really want to hold on to. The things that keep them up at night, those are the pain points. That, can you help them solve that, or help, if you can't solve it, can you help hear what those pain points are and give them another perspective?
Hmm.
um, and the things they love doing and get juiced by, like, how can you enable them to do more of that and less of what they don't? um, I think getting inside the head of entrepreneurs, this is where I was lucky again, like, because it turns out, like, I am an entrepreneur,
That's
and
where you're at already. Yeah.
yeah, so that I was very fortunate, and I think, um, there's it is a unique skill set for, uh, a technical accountant to also have that,
Hmm.
mindset of an entrepreneur. And there's plenty
Yes.
of firm owners out there now that have that, but there's a lot of firm owners out there that they're really good technicians, and they run a couple people on their team, and they have a handful of clients they help, but they won't ever grow their firm because they can't take it to the next level either, being a leader. So, like, I think, it is unique, and not everyone has the capability to do that. But so going back to your question, going, as much into the head of who you're trying to help, and figure out those pain and areas, and areas that they, things you can help them support doing more of. Um, and then, second question was about being, like,
Like,
prepared
how
for
how
the
would you
shift.
suggest and like wisdom to impart around being intentional with, like, you've been able to move with the shifts in your industry area? Like, how could those of us who are especially in like the service provider roles, kind of adjacent firms and entrepreneurs who are running things similar to you, providing something different, how are you and how can others stay attuned and kind of in an advantageous positioning
Yeah,
to the shifts and the trends occurring? Like, what are you doing,
yeah. Um, Again, I'd love to say it was like foresight and, like,
Yeah, I
strategic
know
thought.
you're gonna say it's luck.
It wasn't. I mean, I will say that, but I also think it's not just luck. It's just viewing everything you do as an iteration.
Mm,
And so, don't, say, all right, we've come up with this new way to serve our clients, and we're using this tool, and this is our process, and then put that process on a shelf and never reevaluate whether it makes sense or still makes sense, right? Like everything, and I use the term all the time, progress over perfection, which,
Mm-hmm.
you got to move forward, right? You can't just like wait till you have this perfect vision. And so it's like, take a step, do something, find out what works from it. And this is very, there's a lot of analogies to this. And in the startup world, you got your MVP, your minimum viable product, and there's lots of terms that relate to this concept. But just never viewing it as done, and just always being open to a better way on how to serve your clients, or being aware of what's going on in the industry. And I do think, if there are influencers or communities you can speak to, the more you talk to other people in the space, the more you learn from each other. And that's really been helpful for me over the last couple of years. Because early on, like I was just, in a box and focused all internally, and, worked with our clients, helped grow our team, but like didn't know what anyone else in the space was doing, really, just kind of head down. And I think being more head up and aware of what others are doing, that plus focusing and just, always thinking things can be better and being open to it. I think those can kind of help you get lucky and be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is really aligning with the natural laws of evolution that are everywhere, but being intentional about always evolving, always evolving. And then if you're always evolving, how could you not be potentially evolving with the current way of things?
Yeah. Like even
I
though
love that.
yeah, thank you. The focus on NetSuite, for instance, like
Mm,
that started at my last firm, and we saw some of our larger clients switching from QuickBooks Online to NetSuite. And I was like, well, those larger clients, those are the ones I love working with. And we have so much value to provide them, but they're going to go, hire someone in-house or whatnot, because they're going to this new system if we don't work with them. So it was like, okay,
mm,
let's learn how to work on that system. And,
mhm.
and so we can keep helping those clients. And then that just snowballed and turned into this whole like focus of growth, focus of marketing. Like this is who we want to go after. So just being open to that. And again, it goes back to like, just who do you want to help?
Yes, I'm hearing like the being intentional about learning about the nuanced headaches of a high value customer, and especially like when you have to use something like NetSuite and being able to speak to all of that and be comfortable with it. So,
Totally.
Chris, thank you so much. This is a really valuable, insightful conversation to just get to hear the different stages and evolutions that you've gone through. And I think that it speaks volumes for all of us who are in, positions of assisting entrepreneurs, even if it's through like helping them get a book out or, there's different ways, but just being able to think about how to align and be better partners and inside their heads and needs, and then also be, ever evolving, never something on the shelf, intentionally moving with this crazy world that's shifting at lightning speed more and more every day. But it's just really wonderful to see how you've done it. So thank you for sharing those experiences today.
Thank you. Really appreciate you having me. It's been fun, and I hope I can find some marketing spend of my own to get a book out soon with you.
A book someday. Yeah, sounds good. We'll wait for that. That'd be perfect. But yeah, thanks again for the time and everyone. And stay tuned for the next one. Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Expanders Podcast, presented by The Skinny Platform. You can catch more episodes and be notified of newly released episodes by following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or subscribing on YouTube. For more information on the Expanders Podcast and The Skinny Platform, visit our website, www.theskinnyplatform.com.